Hi, it's Chris Croft here from successfultrainers.com, helping people get into training, helping them get started and set up their own training business. And I want to make a little video now about plagiarism, about intellectual property. Because is it okay to steal other people's ideas and put them into your training course? What about if you've read a book and you thought it was really good? Can you use the ideas from the book? And the answer is really that everything's nicked. In the end, every idea comes from somewhere else. And that's what we're doing in our society, aren't we? We're building on other people's ideas and we stand on the shoulders of giants, etc. So I think it's absolutely fine. In fact, I feel that my job really isn't to invent a whole time management course or project management course. I think my job is to read lots of books, talk to lots of people, go to lots of other conferences and courses and pull out all the best bits. I feel like I'm curating the information, and my job is to find all the best bits, put them into a logical pattern and then give them to you. So I am quite open about the fact that most of my stuff is pinched from other places. I'm a training magpie. Now, I have got a few things that are uniquely mine, and that's great. I've managed to make a few little theories that are mine. And also the stories that I use are mine. They are all true. So when I illustrate a point with a story, it is something that has really happened to me. And I think it's very important to make it your own. But there's lots of stuff in my courses that I've pinched from other places, and I'm quite open about that. So if it's a known theory, then quote the name. And if it's taken from a book, quote the book. And I think that makes you look honest, but it also makes you look well read. So it's not a problem to say, I discovered this in this time management book by so-and-so, and I think it's great. And sometimes I'll say it was the only good thing in the book. And sometimes I will say that this book is an absolute must read and you have to read it. For example, The Road Less Travelled, I'm always going on about that. The Inner Game of Tennis, I'm always going on about that. And there are some other fantastic books. There's one called Managing Management Time by William Onken. I'd really recommend that. So it's absolutely great to mention books that you've got ideas from. I think that copyright law, don't quote me on this, but I think you're allowed to quote 10% of a book before copyright kicks in. And that's a lot of a book. So you can certainly quote a paragraph or a page from a book, absolutely, without it being a problem with copyright. Occasionally people write to me, I've got a book on time management, and they say, can we quote part of your book? I'm always delighted, I always say yes. So you can always ask if you have to. But I'm pretty sure you're allowed to quote a few pages from a book without there being any problem at all. And one of the things I always think when people ask, can they quote from my book, is, of course you can, because half of my book's nicked from people, and the people I nicked it from somebody else. There's a whole chain, isn't there? And a lot of theories, we don't even know where they came from. So the 4 types of people, the analytical, controller, amiable, and enthusiast, that has kind of almost been owned now by a company called Insights. And Insights do a really good job giving you a questionnaire and an interpretation, but it's not their theory. It came from Carl Jung originally, hundreds of years ago. I mean, he's long dead now. So I think anybody's allowed to use that theory. You just can't copy the Insights questionnaire, obviously. Another example is the important urgent matrix, and Stephen Covey kind of made that his own. He had actually 2 famous books, because he had the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but he had another book called something like First Things First, where he talks about it. So he's made it his own, but he didn't invent that. We know that Eisenhower used to call it the Eisenhower matrix, but I think it might go all the way back to the ancient Greeks. I'm not sure. So I wouldn't worry too much about using these theories in terms of who owns the intellectual property. Just use whatever you like in your course, credit as many people as you can, and try to have multiple sources. Don't run a course that's totally taken from one book, because that would be bad, and it wouldn't be a very good course anyway. Because then you're not fulfilling your duty to do lots of research and curate all the best bits. So have multiple sources, and then you should be fine. But if you want to know more about this, remember, you can always go to successfultrainers.com and give me a call if you want help with your training business. And finally, don't forget to subscribe. I hope to see you in future videos. Subscribe, and I think you can click on the little bell symbol, and then it will notify you whenever I release another one of these videos.